Welcome back to the channel. Today, we're looking at 3 of the most valuable half-dollar coins from the United States, from older classics to modern rarities. These are the coins that collectors are willing to pay top dollar for. I'll show you which dates, mint marks, and errors to look for, and how much they're selling for today. You might just have one of these treasures sitting in your change jar, so let's get started. First up, the Kennedy half-dollar series began in 1964. Just months after the assassination of President John F. Kennedy, it quickly became one of the most collected coins in U.S. history. By 1973, the coin had already gone through a major change, from 90% silver in 1964 to 40% silver from 1965 through 1970, and finally to a copper-nickel-clad composition starting in 1971. The 1973 issue represents one of the early years of this all-clad era. At this point, half-dollars had already largely disappeared from circulation because people had been hoarding them since the 1960s for their silver content, so most 1973 halves actually went straight into mint sets, proof sets, or storage, rather than daily change. The obverse of the 1973 half-dollar features the iconic portrait of John F. Kennedy created by Gilroy Roberts. It is a bold, sculptural profile that captures Kennedy's youthful energy and optimism. Around the portrait, you'll see the inscriptions "Liberty, in God We Trust," and the date 1973. The reverse, designed by Frank Casparo, displays the presidential seal, a heraldic eagle with outstretched wings clutching arrows and an olive branch surrounded by 50 stars. Is a very powerful and patriotic design, which is why many collectors admire the Kennedy half-dollar series as one of the most striking in U.S. coinage. By 1973, the coin was no longer struck in silver for general circulation. The composition was the standard copper-nickel-clad, an inner core of pure copper sandwich it between two outer layers of 75% copper and 25% nickel. The coin weighs 1134 grams, measures 30.6 2000 in diameter, and has a reeded edge. Because there's no silver, its melt value is negligible, meaning its value is entirely determined by its rarity, condition, and collector demand. There were also special 40% silver half-dollars struck only in San Francisco for collector sets in 1970, but not for 1973, so any 1973 silver-looking coin is still clad. Here's where things get interesting. The 1973 half-dollar was not released in large numbers for general circulation like most years, which surprises many new collectors. Instead, most of the mintage was reserved for collectors and placed into mint sets and proof sets. The Philadelphia Mint struck about 64 million pieces, while the Denver Mint struck about 83 million, but these were not distributed to banks in the same way as previous years. The San Francisco Mint produced about 2.76 million proof coins. The term might be used casually online to refer to the 3 different mint marks PD and S that exist. For this coin, collectors often try to get all 3 to complete a 1973 set. So what are they worth? A circulated 1973 half-dollar is generally worth 50 cents simply because there are plenty available. However, uncirculated examples with strong luster can be worth $2, $5 depending on grade, and certified examples in MS65 or higher can sell for $15, $25 because they are much tougher to find in top condition. Proof versions with a deep cameo finish, meaning strong frosted devices and mirror-like fields, can be worth $5, $10 or more. Coins graded PR690 CAM or PR7 ODCAM by PCGS or NGC can bring even higher premiums for registry collectors. In 1973, the U.S. Mint was actively selling annual mint sets and proof sets by mail order. This was effectively an early subscription service where collectors could pay in advance and receive the year's coins directly from the mint. If you have a 1973 half-dollar from a mint set, it's likely to be in better shape than one that entered circulation. Proof set examples from San Francisco, even more desirable because they were struck with specially polished dies and handled with extra care. If you still have a complete 1973 mint or proof set in its original government packaging. Collectors often pay a premium for those intact sets. When looking for a nice 1973 half-dollar, pay attention to strike quality and surface marks. Kennedy halves are large coins, which means they often pick up contact marks during production. Look for examples with minimal bag marks, bright luster and sharp detail in Kennedy's hair. A weak strike will make his hair look flat. For proof coins, look for deep cameo contrast where Kennedy's portrait appears frosted and stands out against mirror-like fields. There are no major double die varieties for 1973, but there are minor errors like off-center strikes or clipped plankets that can be collectible. Even though the 1973 half-dollar isn't rare, it still holds appeal because it represents an era when half-dollars were being minted mostly for collectors rather than for everyday use. It's an important part of the Kennedy half-dollar series, and completing a full date and mint mark set wouldn't be complete without it, as more people build registry sets and look for high-grade coins. The best examples could see gradual price appreciation. The proof issues are also a great way to showcase the design at its absolute sharpest, and they make beautiful display pieces. So there you have it, the complete guide to the 1973 Kennedy half-dollar. Its history, mintage numbers, value in different conditions, mint set, and proof set details, and tips on what to look for. While it may not be a high-dollar rarity, it's a coin with historical significance and strong collector interest. If you enjoyed this deep dive, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, click the bell icon so you won't miss future videos on US coins and their values. Drop a comment below and tell us if you have a 1973 half-dollar in your collection and whether it's a circulation. Find a mint set coin. Next up, the Kennedy half-dollar series was created in 1964 as a tribute to President John F. Kennedy after his tragic assassination in November 1963. Americans quickly embraced the coin, and for many years it rarely circulated because people saved them as keepsakes. By 1974, the coin had been in production for a decade and was being struck in copper nickel-clad rather than silver, a change that happened starting in 1971. The year 1974 is interesting because it came just before the bicentennial redesign of 1975-1976, making it one of the last regular design Kennedy halves of the 1970 South before the dual date 1776-1976 issues took over. It's a coin that reflects a moment of stability in the series before the U.S. Mint celebrated America's 200th birthday. On the obverse of the coin we find Gilroy Roberts' now familiar portrait of John F. Kennedy. Facing left, it's a strong youthful profile with liberty around the top edge. In God We Trust split on either side of the portrait, and the date 1974. At the bottom, the reverse features Frank Gasparo's bold adaptation of the presidential seal, a heraldic eagle clutching olive branches and arrows surrounded by 50 stars with the words United States of America, and half-dollar is a patriotic, powerful image that makes the Kennedy half one of the most striking circulating coins ever issued by the United States. The 1974 Kennedy half-dollar is made of a copper nickel-clad composition, 75% copper and 25% nickel on the outside, bonded to a pure copper core. It weighs 11.34 grams, has a diameter of 30.6 2000 and a reeded edge. There were no silver half-dollars struck for circulation in 1974, but collectors should know that some special 40% silver half-dollars were produced only for collector sets in 1970 and 1976. If you have a 1970 for half-dollar that looks silver, it's almost certainly just a regular clad coin. This is important because some people mistake the silvery color for silver content, but there is no melt value premium here. Its value is purely numismatic. Now let's get into how many were made. The U.S. Mint struck 79.1 million 1974 half-dollars at Philadelphia, no mint mark. 79.0 million at Denver, D. Mint mark. Can 2.6 million proof coins at San Francisco S mint mark. That's a total of over 160 million coins, so this date is quite common in circulated grades. The phrase that sometimes shows up in collector discussions usually refers to the three available mint versions: Philadelphia, Denver and San Francisco, which many collectors aim to acquire as a complete trio. Some collectors also like to put together 30 coin type sets or rolls of 20 and 30 pieces per mint to build a mini hoard, which is where you sometimes hear that phrase tossed around because so many were made. A well-circulated 1974 $half is generally worth only face value 50 cents, but the value climbs quickly if you have a high-grade, uncirculated coin. A bright lustrous mint state 65 example can sell for $10–15. Superb gems graded MS66 or MS67 by PCGS or NGC can sell for much more, sometimes $50 or more, simply because very few survive with perfect surfaces. Proof coins from San Francisco generally sell for $5–10 with deep cameo DCAM proofs bringing slightly higher prices. If you find a proof coin with deep frosted devices and mirror-like fields in perfect condition, it might be worth sending for certification. In 1974, the U.S. Mint offered annual mint sets and proof sets through mail order subscription, an early form of what today's collectors would call a mint subscription program. These sets are where many of the highest quality 1974 Kennedy halves come from. If you have a 1974 $half that has never been in circulation and is still in the original mint packaging, it will likely grade very well and could be worth a premium. Complete mint or proof sets containing the 1974 $half are popular among collectors because they preserve the coin in its best state and include all other denominations from that year. When searching for a nice 1970 for $half, focus on finding examples with a strong strike, meaning Kennedy's hair details are fully visible and minimal contact marks, especially on the cheek and in the fields. These areas are the first to show wear or bag marks. Proof coins should be free of haze, spotting, or scratches on the mirrored surfaces. While there are no major double die varieties for the 1970 for $half, there are always minor mint errors like clipped plankets, off-center strikes, or die cracks that can be fun to collect and sometimes fetch a premium. The 1974 Kennedy $half is not considered rare, but it is a staple of any date and mint mark set. Collectors enjoy this coin because it's part of a historically important series. It's relatively inexpensive to acquire and it's still a nice big coin that shows off its design beautifully. Over time, as more collectors focus on high-grade registry sets, the price of top-quality coins may slowly rise. This is especially true for certified MS67 pieces, which are quite challenging to find. Proof coins with strong cameo contrast will likely remain popular as they show off the design at its most striking. So there you have it, the full story of the 1970 for Kennedy $half, its history, mintage, design, composition, collector value, and a role of mint and proof sets in preserving the best examples. While it may not make you rich, it's an essential coin for anyone collecting Kennedys or building a full US coin type set. If you enjoyed this deep dive, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to and hit the bell so you won't miss future episodes where we explore the coins in your pocket and their hidden stories. Drop a comment below and tell us if you've got a 1974 $half. Is it a circulation find, a mint set, beauty, or a shiny proof from San Francisco? We'd love to hear your story. The Kennedy $half series was introduced in 1964 to honor President John F. Kennedy after his assassination in November 1963. Over time, the coin transitioned from being a heavily hoarded silver coin to a mostly collector-oriented piece. By the late 1970s, the $half had nearly vanished from everyday circulation, meaning that many of the coins from this era, including 1977, were primarily made for collectors or for limited circulation demand. The 1977 issue came after the special bicentennial dual date coin of 1976 and marked a return to the regular Kennedy design with just a single date on the obverse. For many collectors, it represents a return to normalcy for the series. After the patriotic celebrations of the bicentennial, the design of the 1977 Kennedy $half will be familiar to most collectors. On the obverse is Gilroy Roberts' portrait of John F. Kennedy facing left, surrounded by the word Liberty, the motto "In God We Trust," and the date 1977 at the bottom. On the reverse, Frank Gasparo's heraldic eagle design, the modified presidential seal fills the field with United States of America and half dollar. Encircling it, this design had now been in use for over a decade and remained a powerful symbol of American pride. It's a large, handsome coin that makes an excellent centerpiece in any collection. The 1977 half dollar is made of copper, nickel-clad just like all circulating half dollars from 1971 onward. It consists of an inner core of pure copper with outer layers of 75% copper and 25% nickel, giving it a bright silvery look. The coin weighs 1134 grams, measures 30.6 2000 across, and has a reeded edge since it contains no silver. Its melt value is essentially the same as any other copper-nickel coin, so its value comes entirely from collector demand, rarity, and high grade and condition. Special silver issues were not struck in 1977, unlike the 40% silver versions from 1976 that were sold to collectors. Let's talk numbers. In 1977, the Philadelphia Mint struck approximately 43.6 million half dollars with no mint mark, and the Denver Mint struck about 31.4 -1 coins with the D mint mark. The San Francisco Mint produced roughly 3.25 million proof coins for inclusion in proof sets. That gives us three distinct mint sources: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, which is what many collectors refer to when they talk about completing a or set for this year. Having one of each is a common way collectors like to represent a day, and it can be a fun challenge to get them all in the highest grades possible. In circulated condition, a 1977 half dollar is typically worth just its face value, 50 cents, because there are still millions in existence. But if you have an uncirculated example with full luster, it can be worth $2 for dollars. Coins graded MS65 can sell for $10, $20, and superb gem examples graded MS66 or MS67 by PCGS or NGC can bring even higher prices, sometimes over $100, because flawless survivors are very hard to find. Proof coins from San Francisco are more desirable, especially those with strong cameo contrast, where Kennedy's portrait is frosty and stands out against the mirrored fields. Deep cameo proofs graded TR690CAM or PR7ODCAM can be especially valuable to registry set collector. One of the main sources for high-grade 1977 half dollars is the annual mint sets and proof sets that the U.S. Mint sold directly to collectors. This was a subscription-style program where you could pre-order the year's coinage and receive them by mail. The coins in these sets were specially handled to minimize scratches and bag marks, so they tend to be in much better condition than coins struck for general circulation. If you still have a complete 1977 mint set or proof set in its original government packaging, collectors may pay a premium for it, and the half dollar inside will likely grade higher than most coins found in rolls. When searching for a 1977 half dollar worth saving, look for coins with sharp details in Kennedy's hair and minimal contact marks on the cheek and in the fields. Those areas are the first to show wear and floss. Proof coins should have a deep, watery mirror finish and strong cameo contrast. There are no major doubled, dyed, or overdate varieties known for 1977, but minor die cracks, clip plankets, and off-center strikes can sometimes be found, and add variety to a collection. If you find a coin that looks unusually sharp or has a dramatic mint error, it may be worth sending for professional grading. The 1977 Kennedy half dollar might not be rare, but it remains an important piece for anyone building a date and mint mark set. It's also a great starter coin for new collectors because it's large, attractive, and still very affordable over time. High-grade examples, especially certified MS67 coins and perfect proof examples, could see price growth as more collectors compete to build trunking registry sets. The key to future value is quality. The fewer flawless survivors remain, the higher the demand will be for the best examples. So that's everything you need to know about the 1977 Kennedy half dollar, its history, design, mintage, numbers, collector value, and the importance of mint and proof sets for finding top quality examples. While it may be common in circulation, this coin still has a lot of collector interest, and the best examples can be worth far more than face value. If you enjoy this deep dive, hit that like button, subscribe to, and ring the bell so you don't miss our next video on US coin history and value. Drop a comment comment below and tell us if you have a 1977 half dollar and whether it's a bankroll, find a mint set, gem, or a proof coin. We'd love to hear your story. Thanks for watching.